to the Nest Podcast, your weekly home for sports news, video game reviews, and hot takes with your hosts, Brandon, Zach, and Justin. Enjoy the show.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode number 92, the Reggie White episode, as always presented by Sportszilla. I'm your host, Brandon. Joining me tonight is my longtime co-host, Zach, and our good friend joining us, a special guest from the McDojo show, Wallow J. Wallow, say hello to the peoples.
Hello, peoples.
Where have you heard that before?
Yeah. I know you know how to talk, so go ahead. The McDojo show, that's your new project that you just kind of relaunched. Tell us about it. Tell us what's going on with that.
Well, it all stems from, I don't know if you guys have seen the McDojo Life page where basically fakes in the martial arts community get exposed. Mm-hmm. And Rob has been doing that for about 7 years. And, of course, Chris and I were doing the Locker Room Talk podcast for 3 years. I think it was 3, going on 4 now. And he approached us because he was doing interviews with, a bunch of people, fighters, coaches, people in their entertainment. And he approached us because he couldn't do them anymore. He just didn't have the time because he's also doing a documentary. So we talked about it and we decided to basically, shut down Locker Room Talk and just move on to doing the McDojo show, which is, basically what we were doing in Locker Room Talk, but now we have guests, pretty much every week now. Last week, we had Ian McCall, who used to fight in the UFC, Ryzen, and WEC. He was the Tachi Place featherweight champion at one point. At one point, he was ranked number 1 in the world in the featherweight division. So the dude's a stud, and now he's retired doing other stuff. So we talked to him for a little bit. So it was fun.
And that other stuff that he's doing is pretty interesting. So go give that a listen.
It's a lot, so I'm not going to go into it.
Oh, boy.
So if you guys want to listen to it, just look up the McDojo show, and it's already out there. So
when I see that you guys go live, I usually tune in for a few minutes just to kind of see who the guest is that week,
right,
and what you guys are kind of talking about generally, and then I listen to it on the podcast episode. But when I saw the interview with Ian and I saw in the title it said Uncle Creepy, I was like, what the hell is this all about? So I actually ended up listening to about an hour and a half of the live stream.
All right. Cool.
While you guys were going, and then you guys still went on for about another 30 minutes or so.
I think it was like another 20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes. Yeah. So I've got to catch the tail end of the conversation, but I was so intrigued by everything that he was talking about, and it's a lot, like you said, but
it would make a great Netflix story, a great documentary, or even like a little season of a show,
right?
Because he's been through a lot and done a lot. So,
well, and the other guests that you've had on your show so far have been phenomenal. You had Angela Hill,
yeah,
a current UFC fighter, getting ready to fight
on
probably the biggest fight of her career so far.
Yeah, with Claudia Gadelha, which is funny because when we were talking to her, we were trying to figure out who do you need to fight to get into that title picture. Mm-hmm. And we started naming names, and I think I said, how about Claudia Gadelha? And she said something as far as that she didn't know. And I'm like, as far as her being active. And I said, well, I've seen her on Instagram all the time training. So she's ready, I think. And sure as shit, within like a couple of weeks, that fight was made.
Wow, look at you. Wallow J, UFC matchmaker.
Call me, Dana. I'll make your matches.
I'm sure you would put together quite a few amazing ones, especially after the card that we just saw on Saturday night.
It'd be awesome to stack just a bunch of cards, but Man, that's something that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah,
A guy can dream.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I know you're in good with a lot of those guys at Combat Night and stuff like that. Maybe they will one day get you involved with their matchmaking.
Oh no, man, they got that on lockdown.
Yeah, that's a pretty legit promotion.
Yeah.
Speaking of legit, Zach and I have been keeping up with this Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. Have you been watching that at all?
100%. I was one of the biggest Bulls fans in the 90s and 80s that you'll ever meet.
Goodness.
I had a Jordan jersey. I mean, I had the shoes. I used to play basketball growing up. I mean, I played basketball from like 4 through pretty much 20s,
Really?
So, yeah, I was a huge fan. Like, I've left events that I was at because the Bulls were playing.
That sounds like me and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Like, it's your birthday? Oh, I can't. The Sox have a 2:05 game against the Orioles.
Yeah, when Michael came back from his 18-month hiatus, and they lost to the Magic the following year, I knew that they were just going to kill it. And I was at an event. It was like some car dealership. They had something going on. And, I was there with friends. Oh, we got to go there. It's going to be fun, whatever. I was like, all right, but at 7, I got to go because the Bulls are playing.
And is that how you are with this documentary as well? It's appointment TV. You have to be there right at time for.
Oh yeah, pretty much. I mean, I haven't missed one episode yet. I mean, I wish that it was all out so I could just binge watch it. But
that's why I was asking, because I know that's how you prefer to watch your TV.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not like that, and I have to wait till next Sunday to catch the last 2. But
at least they're giving you 2 per week. That's
dope. True.
That's pretty dope. You don't have to wait all 10 weeks. You only had to wait 5.
Yeah, that's true.
So, we've kind of talked about each pair of episodes as they've come out. So I don't really want to go too deep dive into it, but what did you think about the most recent ones, 7 and 8?
I mean, it was tough you could see the pain when he spoke about his father, and when he won that championship and, he was crying. It wasn't like tears of joy. He was like really, really sobbing over
from the depths.
Yeah.
Deep. Yeah.
You could tell, that hurt him deep. So that was, the whole thing with Pippen sitting out. I remember that shit too. And I agree with him to a certain extent, because I thought that he should have gotten the ball. He was the superstar. We win, the game with our guy, or we lose it with our guy. Same thing when Jordan was on the court. You knew that they were either going to win with Jordan or they were going to lose with Jordan. And I thought that maybe he should have sucked it up and just gone in. But at the end of the day, the play that they set up worked out perfectly, because, they ended up winning that particular game, which they were not doing very well that season because they had a little bit of turnover. Horace had gone to Orlando and all that. And the team was just not as good as it was, the prior year.
Well, like you said, all good things must come to an end, or they all kind of crumble or whatever. And you were talking about they were going to win with Michael or lose with Michael. Nothing was more evident than when Michael went to go play baseball. What happened?
Yeah.
The city of Houston got to win 2 NBA championships.
Yeah.
And then when Michael came back, he was like, well, yeah, let me get that shit back.
Yep.
But he was exhausted. I mean, he has so much shit going on that you can't now that you watch the documentary, you understand why he stepped away for those 18 months. It was like, fuck, I probably do the same shit. I probably would have never come back. The way that the media was trying to bring him down, that was kind of bullshit. So I don't blame him.
Yep, same.
Now, imagine being in the room. Imagine we're all members of the Chicago Bulls brass, and we're in the room, and we hear the fax machine start to buzz, and then we just look over and see that it's from MJ, and it just says, I'm back.
Well, if you're Jerry Cross, you're probably not really happy about it,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that Reinsdorf should have gotten rid of him because he was just like a cloud of negative energy for that team. Nobody respected him. They all clowned him because of the shit that he was trying to do. So I mean, he was the main reason why the Bulls just kind of went downhill after everybody left. I mean, he's the reason why everybody left.
Right.
I mean,
I guess I could understand his point of view of trying to not necessarily pay the older athletes as much money as they all wanted because they didn't have many years left. But the fact that he wanted to get rid of the coach was just absurd to me, because hindsight 2020, he went on to coach the fucking Lakers and win a bunch more championships.
Yeah, 4.
I don't understand where his stance was at all.
To that point on Phil Jackson, do you think it's because he's that good of a coach, or did he just inherit amazing teams?
A little bit of both. I mean, apparently,
I think you got to look at the landscape of the NBA at the time and what he had on his team. He had the 2 perennial greatest of their generations back to back.
That's true, but you also have to know how to manage those personalities.
And that's where I'll give Phil a lot of credit. I will say that he was a good team manager. I don't know how much he is a good coach or basketball mind. What has he done with the Knicks? Zach, where's the soundboard with the crickets?
Yep, he hasn't shit. Yeah, I mean, I think to his credit, the big problem with coaching a team that has a gigantic superstar is that superstar wants the ball the whole game, and it just can't happen. And I think for Phil to find other pieces that could fit with both Jordan and Kobe was a big deal. He found defensive people that didn't give a shit about having the ball. He found shooters, and that could build around a superstar that could do it all.
Yeah, I mean, it really went into detail with the bad blood seemingly between Jordan and Kerr. Even talking in detail about the fist fight in practice and stuff like that. Like, as a fan of that time, that's something I didn't know about. Right. I just either didn't pay attention or wasn't close enough to the source to be able to pick up on that kind of a news story. Nowadays, you would hear about it in 15 seconds. But
yeah, I mean, I know about it. I saw it on the news and all that stuff. I mean, I would follow, sports. Well, the Bulls at least, pretty big time. So, I remember the book when it came out. So I remember all that shit, which is crazy because he was like over 20 years ago.
Right. And speaking of the little fight with Steve Kerr, that kind of brought up a subject that people have kind of weighed in on, whether or not MJ was being a leader or was he just being a bully to his teammates. And in my opinion, there's a fine line between being a hard ass leader and being a bully. And MJ clearly walked on the middle of that line.
He tiptoed. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that was just the way that he knew how to get the most out of his teammates. I mean, was it a dick move? Maybe. But did those guys perform? 100%. So, I mean, everybody can say whatever they want as far as, him being an asshole to his teammates or whatever, but they won. They were winning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all that matters in sports.
Yeah. And if you remember one of the first episodes when he was younger and the team was not as good as they were.
No, yeah.
Before he won his first championship, they sucked, and he had to step up and become a leader and make people better around him because he couldn't do it all. And I think that's where he learned how to lead and how to push people and how to bring out the best in teammates that weren't as at his level.
But look what happened, after the fight with Kerr, they talked it out, and they had an understanding, Jordan just wanted to win by any means necessary. And if you don't fit that, particular way of how he plays, then you're no good to him. The same thing, with Kobe. You heard about Kobe being a hard ass on his teammates. So
Yeah, him and Shaq had a little Twitter feud, however long ago about that. And Kobe mentioned something like, "Imagine if Shaq would have had the work ethic that I did, we could have won 6, 7, 8 championships, but he didn't." And
probably.
so, and I totally get that. I mean, it's a team sport, and when you're a super athlete like that, and you have to rely on people, it's hard to rely on people that aren't at your level.
Imagine if Shaq would have taken like maybe an hour out of his days just to practice free throws. Do you think that people were going to be quick to, hack him under the paint?
Probably
not.
Yeah.
Because if he was even like an 80% or even a 75%, free throw shooter, those games would have been blowouts.
Brother, if he was even a 70% shooter, those games would have been 60% even. Like, I think he was a career like 30 or 40% free throw shooter. Not very good. Yep. But to you guys' point, Jordan was a hard ass, and some people respond to that. Zach, I know you went through boot camp and military basic training and stuff. You saw it all around you. Some guys responded when they were getting yelled at, and other guys just, didn't get motivated by it. They were more aggravated or annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with these teammates. Will Purdue called him an asshole, a jerk, but a hell of a teammate.
Right.
He was an asshole. He was hard, but he was a great teammate. Scottie Pippen said, I needed him to be the bad guy, the tough guy.
Yeah. That kind of leadership skill, or leadership style rather, it's a pain in the ass in the moment. But then once it makes the result that you desire it to, everyone looks back and says, you know what, that was just how it had to be done. Yep. And I think a lot of the players were talking about that during the little interviews, how, he was an asshole, but you know what, we won. So it worked.
I mean, I think the simplest way that you could put it is, look at ourselves, we're well-adjusted individuals for the most part. That's probably because of our parents and the way that they raised us. Nowadays, you have some parents that let their kids get away with whatever. And those are the people that are, doing the shit that they do out there nowadays. All the crime, the shootings, and all that bullshit. But when we were growing up, I know my mom was tough on me. So that's probably the simplest way that you can put it. He was raising his team to be what he needed them to be.
Yep.
And if that meant to be, if that meant tough love, then that's what he was going to give them, tough love. I mean, the way that he was riding Scotty Burrell, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but, it was rough.
I guess it works.
It did for the Bulls. That's for damn sure.
Right. 6 championships.
And, bravo to this film crew for putting this all together and all that stuff. The Last Dance has been phenomenal. What other story would you like to see go as in depth as The Last Dance? I know 30 for 30s are great and all, but it seems like they just scratch the surface on a lot of these things and then move on.
I want to see why, more information on Pippen's contract. Like, why would he, get lowballed that much and he agreed to sign it? I know that he said that he had a lot of people that he had to take care of and all that, but he was way undervalued.
Yeah.
He was, I think, like 122nd in the league, and he was the second best player in the league at the time.
Yeah, we talked about it on an episode after that fact aired or whatever, and we looked up whoever the 122nd highest paid player in the league is this year, and nobody even knows who he is.
And how much is he making?
Oh, like
millions and millions.
About 8 or 9 million more than what Scotty was making.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's the root cause of Pippen's problems. I'm not saying it's like the definite reason as to why he sat out for that game and all that animosity. But I think that played into it. I think ultimately he thought in the back of his mind that the team didn't really give a shit about him. Obviously the players liked him and stuff like that, but the front office didn't really care about him, and he was on the chopping block. So he probably thought, you know what, I'm not going to go out there and bust my ass if you're not willing to pay me, and I'm here to do my job, and I'm not going to do much else. And I think that's really where Pippin's kind of sore spot developed from.
Yeah, I mean, once Jerry Carl said, this is Phil's last year, I knew that was Michael's last year too in Chicago, and I knew that was Scotty's last year in Chicago as well. I didn't know about Rodman, but he ended up going to LA for like a hot minute, So I mean, it was when he said that was Phil's last year, that was the end basically.
That was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't follow basketball that much anymore. I mean, I'll watch here and there, and but that franchise was never the same.
Yep.
And they've had unfortunate luck after that. They had D Rose that was promising MVP of the league, and then just keeps blowing out his knee, and now he's been traded around and bounced around the league. And
they had a couple of good years with him, and they made it, into the playoffs and all that stuff. But other than that, they really haven't done much. It's not, the name the Bulls does not instill fear like it used to do back in the 90s.
Yep,
no, it sure doesn't. Man, our boy Jose must be loving our episodes lately because we've been talking about the Bulls so much. He's a big time Bulls fan from way back. He's from Chicago and all that, so he must be loving it. But I asked what other stories would you want to dive into? Not the Bulls, like what other sports stories? I asked in Sportszilla, what other Last Dance style docs would you want to see next? And I gave a few examples on there, and some other people filled in some other choices. Some of the ones that I thought might be interesting, and what the guys in Sportszilla voted as top, is the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. So you guys kind of touched on that a little bit already, and that seems like it would be a pretty interesting doc if they decided to dive into the dynamics that was there between Kobe and Shaq.
Well, you can also do one on the Magic, when Penny and Shaq were out there, and they also had a fallout. And,
sure.
And not until recently, I think they did that 30 for 30. That's when they mended shit, So that'd be a good one too.
The good thing with that is you could actually bring Penny in to speak his side. Unfortunately, with Kobe, we would never get that.
That is true. That is 100% true. But you could also, pull interviews.
Sure. Yeah. That's what you have to rely on, even if like maybe sentiments are different now or would have been different now. Yeah. Who knows? We'll never know the other side of that one. Some of the other more interesting topics that were mentioned on that poll, the 1990s Cowboys, kind of the same era as the 90s Bulls. I don't really know too much.
There is a documentary out there already for the Cowboys.
Is there?
Yeah, it's called Cocaine Cowboys.
Good one.
I was expecting Brokeback Mountain or something like that. But.
Different Cowboys.
Well, they had all those guys that were big into drugs. What was his name? They got busted with like a van full of pot. What was his name? Was it Newton?
Cowboy? I'm not sure.
There was a Newton at one time named.
Yeah, I think he got busted with Van Morris.
I don't remember this
from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had like a van full of dope.
That's hilarious.
Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, and of course you all remember Michael Irvin's issues with the white stuff.
That's why I think the 90s Cowboys would make an interesting Last Dance style doc where they really dive into all of the issues and all that stuff. I don't know. Plus they won championships amidst all of that stuff. So,
well, you could also do a documentary on all the guys that Jordan pretty much prevented from getting championships. You know, all the Knicks,
Yeah.
you know, Charles Barkley, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp.
All the guys that history has
Yeah,
forgotten.
all the guys that pretty much history has forgotten that came short when they went against Jordan and the Bulls.
Right.
And there are a lot of them.
And like Brandon said, Houston was only allowed to get some championships because Jordan wasn't in the league. So Houston's almost kind of in there too.
Like, how many times did Jordan breaks the Cavaliers' hearts?
Right.
Every year.
That shot on Elo. I mean, that was one of the greatest, you know, highlights ever in the history of basketball. You know, they constantly replay it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some of the other things that received a few votes, NCAA corruption, which I think is interesting timing wise now because that Zion scandal is
He took the money.
I
Whatever they gave him, he took it. His family took it, and guess what? He probably deserved it.
Right.
He probably did because this kid.
A lot of those guys deserve all the gifts that they get because they get $0 for playing in college, while the NCAA pockets billions, not millions, billions.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is literally the last thing the NCAA wanted to come up. They of all people wanted this to stay hush hush because Zion's such a mega star. And
I'd be like, fuck it, I took it. Yeah, and what you gonna do? You gonna strip Duke of their victories?
If he goes Takeshi 6ix9ine on him and starts snitching on everything that he knows, ooh.
I mean, I don't think about snitching is because he's the one that's in trouble.
That's true. Yeah.
For taking, you know, the gifts or whatever. So I'd be like, yeah, I took it, and what you gonna do?
The thing, they're going after his mom and stepfather too. Like that's what's fucked about it. It's like,
what are they gonna do? Are they gonna throw him in jail
for taking money from Nike and Adidas?
Right. What are they gonna do?
Yeah. Too little, too late.
But it just goes to show that corruption pathway, like Nike and Adidas have partnerships with these collegiate schools, and they can influence high school age kids to go to a school that is that brand specific so that they have college shots of them wearing Nike clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And then they go on to the pros to sign a lucrative deal with Nike. It's the corruption pipeline is there. And since NCAA wouldn't give these kids clean money, people figured out how to give them dirty money.
Yeah.
You know, I heard Tebow say that, you know, you shouldn't get paid because you're there to earn an education and all that stuff. And I understand what he's trying to say, but Team Tebow did not struggle like some of these guys struggle to come up and try to play a couple of years of college, not get hurt. So when they are finally able to go either to the NBA or the NFL, they can make that money and support their families. You know, the NCAA is just a bunch of old white guys taking advantage of all these athletes.
Yep.
Basically, that's what it is.
Yeah, and anyone who uses that excuse of, oh well, you're getting paid in a free education. Well, if these athletes are serious about going to the professional level, they're more than likely just taking bullshit classes. There's no way you can take a engineering degree or something that's actually difficult and
some do.
A student athlete. I mean, sure, yeah, some do, but it's not the norm, and it's very difficult to do because being a student athlete is a full-time job in and of itself. Yeah. And then they have to also somehow feed themselves, or they're so lucky to get, you know, family members to help them out or whatever.
Do you guys remember that 5-5 documentary?
No.
Jalen Rose was talking about that shit, how they had to eat like bologna sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yet they had like the #1 jersey sales all across the country. They basically revolutionized how people dress to play basketball with the long shorts, the Black Sox, so it was crazy. And this is, I mean, it's been going on forever.
Right.
They pocket all these monies, and the student athletes get nothing.
Yeah. And I think that door is finally starting to close. I haven't seen anything big yet, but they have, passed the law or whatever it is to allow athletes to get paid for their likeness. So,
well, they need to. I mean, it's crazy that there's so much money into this business, yet they see $0.
Yep.
Oh, well, they're going to be spending it on, I can't remember who it was. Oh, they're just going to be spending it on bullshit, on cars and this and that and the other. It's their fucking money.
mm-hmm.
So who are you to tell them how to spend it too?
And the thing that gets me is all the other students that are on campus can have a work study program and get paid from the college.
They can be a teacher's pet and get paid.
It makes no fucking sense. So
you can be, what is it? A teacher's assistance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and get paid.
It's a work study job. Yeah. But being an athlete and making millions and millions of dollars for that university, that's not a job.
Think about it this way. How much is a college education nowadays?
Oh, easily
50 and 100 grand.
Yeah, easily 50 to 100 grand. Yeah.
Okay, let's go middle of the road. Let's say it's 75 grand.
Fair.
For a guy like Zion Williams to, go to Duke and get his degree. Okay, we know that he's not going to get a degree because we know that he's wanting to go for maybe 1 year.
Yeah, only 1 year. He was one of the one and done guys. You knew it.
Divide that 75, by 4. Okay, so maybe 15, 18 grand for that year. How much money did Duke bring in jersey sales for that guy? How many shoes were sold because of that guy?
And it's funny you mentioned jersey sales and stuff like that because Zion wears number 1. Yeah. That's the most generic college jersey number that they put out there because it can signify like, oh, my team number 1.
Right.
It just happens to also be Zion. So they can't put his last name, Williamson, across the back, but they can sell a Duke number 1 jersey. When LeBron was speaking out about all this, I'm not a big LeBron fan, but I'll give the man credit where it's due. He came out and he was like, look, I went straight to the NBA from high school. Yeah. If I would have went to Ohio State, they would have sold Ohio State number 23 jerseys to this day, and people would have rocked it representing that it was my jersey number.
Oh, for sure.
And 100%. And that's 100% true. People still rock Jordan number 23 Carolina jerseys.
Yep.
I feel I'm too old to wear them now, so I don't buy any anymore.
But Wallow, one of the documentaries that kind of got the most amount of votes and most conversation generating was The Rise of the UFC. And that's something that I feel like you know a lot about and would be able to thoroughly enjoy if they did a deep dive into the history of the UFC.
Because there is one out there. It's called The Hurt Business.
Right.
And it's but it was from like the beginning up until like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So maybe a part 2 is in, they could do that.
But now you got to think ESPN just acquired UFC.
Yeah, for sure.
They want to definitely market it to their new audience and put their gloss and shine over everything.
To the casuals, for sure.
Yeah. Make sure you know the casuals names like Tito Ortiz and Frank Shamrock and all that from back in the day. Yeah, the guys that everybody knew. It's
like, in an era is what, 20 years? That's what's considered an era, 20?
Yeah, roundabout.
So they're at 25. And to me, there's been already 2 eras
at least.
The UFC.
I would even push maybe 3.
Well, to me, that they might be starting a new one at this point.
Okay, that's fair.
But the first one to me was, the beginnings up until guys like Tito and Chuck and Rich Franklin started, going downhill, and they were not the guys that they were when they were champions. To me, that when Chuck lost, to me, that signified the end of an era. Because Chuck had been fighting since, like, I want to say 97, 98.
Because he represented that old school brawler mentality, like the true tough guy.
Yeah.
And that's what the early UFC really was a glorified tough guy contest.
But what people don't know is that Chuck had a pretty good ground game. He was a wrestler in college, and I believe he was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what he is, but I could be wrong. I did read that he was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and he used to train with Scotty Einstein from 10 Planet West LA. So I mean, that dude is legit as fuck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now you were talking about the eras and moving through the different eras of the UFC. The first era was the beginnings from UFC 1 until you said right around the time that Chuck Liddell lost the title and started his decline.
Yeah.
So that would mean that the new era was ushered in by guys like GSP and Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, those guys that were more of a complete martial artist instead of just a one-trick pony.
Actually, I still see Matt Hughes and BJ Penn as far as the
old school guys.
As part of the first era, because they were there so long. I mean,
there's a few fighters that kind of
transition
into different eras.
Yeah. I mean, some of them came in the middle of one and kind of went through the middle of the other one. But to me, BJ Penn, man, when he was so young when he came in, like, to me, I still see him as part of the old school, and so does Matt Hughes. I remember back in 2002, traveling to Virginia and finding out that Matt Hughes was fighting on the card and on a card, and I was like, oh, can we watch this? I was at a friend's house, and that was the fight with Newton.
Oh,
Carlos
Newton, yeah,
the one where Newton put him in a triangle, he picked him up, put him against the cage, but he passed out.
But knocked Newton out with the power bomb.
But basically. So I mean, that, and Newton's also from the old school.
Yeah,
all those guys, Newton, Militech, that's old school to me. I mean, Robbie Lawler's still in it, and he's pretty much gone through all of them.
Yeah.
Because he came in the early days, and he's still at it, but he came in when he was like 18.
And Arlovsky too, man. Arlovsky's been around forever.
Arlovsky's another guy who's been around forever too. Yeah. So I mean, there's a few guys that are still in it, but their day's coming.
So would the Spider be the new era?
He came in towards the tail end of the old school,
and really came into his own as the new star.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and GSP would be the two main guys of the second era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then now you've got to say that there was the Ronda and the Conor era, because they had their ascension toward, they were the two biggest stars, along with John Jones when he could not be in trouble or suspended.
To me, Ronda was the beginning of the women's, movement, if you will.
No, absolutely, she was. That
of the women's era.
That's why she was so dominant whenever she first came in, is because she was beating everybody's ass, but
and it's funny
they weren't good enough yet.
If you heard our podcast, we were talking to Ian, and back in the day, he said something that he caught a lot of shit for it, and it was that any man at 135 would beat the brakes off of Ronda. And technically he's not wrong. He's pretty much on point. And he said that Ronda's boxing was not really all that great. That she had her things that she was good at, but when Freddie Roach comes out and says that she was the best women's boxer in the UFC, It's like, well, we're starting, and there's not that many women in it. I mean, to me, she will always be the first. So you have to give her respect. She'll always be a legend. Uh, but once those girls started catching up, I mean, you see what happened. I mean, a girl like Holly Holm came in, and she was already a boxing and kickboxing champion. So her striking off the bat was gonna be 10 times better. And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Ronda. I thought that she was great, but she, her boxing got exposed at that time.
She was.
It was not as good as they were saying it was.
Now, when Ronda beat Betch Correa, Joe Rogan, and I love Joe Rogan, but he had one of his memorable calls where he said, Ronda is the greatest women's fighter in the world, and we haven't even found a close second.
Well, at that time, he wasn't wrong.
The next fight, she fought Holly Holm.
There's
right. So at that particular time, he was on point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of those that didn't age very well, Joe.
Yeah.
Hey man, these girls are just like the dudes nowadays.
And then
you can't say, oh, women's fighting is really not that great. Nah,
it's good. No,
it is fantastic. They've caught on to the guys pretty much. Their skill level, as long as they're fighting women, of course.
We had a women's fight 2 months ago that's probably going to be the fight of the year.
Well, to me, that was the best fight I've ever seen, period, regardless of gender. And we're talking about Zhang Wei Li and Joanna.
JJ,
yeah. So to me, and I've seen a bunch of fights. I mean, I've been watching this shit for forever, since the beginning on VHS. So, I mean, that's just my opinion, but that's pretty fucking dope fight right there.
No, absolutely. And we saw some pretty dope fights this past weekend, and I want to pick your brain on what we saw. And first of all, it happened in Jacksonville, basically your backyard.
Our backyard. What are you talking about?
Well, I live.
He's in the burbs.
I live in the Bergs, so
no matter. It's part of Jacksonville.
Yeah, whatever. Do you think they're gonna bring back a pay-per-view when we can actually go? Throw us a bone, Dana.
Dana was asked if they were going to come back. He didn't say that he would bring back a pay-per-view per se, but he might bring a fight night or something. I don't know.
That's good enough. I would at least like to go to that. Hopefully they put a good card together for us, because think of how much money the city of Jacksonville is making the UFC.
Well, you got to remember too, there's so many schools around here and so many schools nearby, like in Georgia, Brunswick, all the people from Orlando. Because when the UFC goes to Orlando, I know a bunch of people that travel down to
absolutely
to watch the fights. So you got people not only from Jacksonville, South Georgia, Central Florida, and even South Florida. Those people will come up to watch fights. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, do we have a stadium big enough to have a big gate like Dana likes to have?
We have the bank, baby.
Yeah, but that's an open field. That's it. That's if you're gonna take a show to a field that big, you should take it to Cowboy Stadium. That's just being real.
But that's not in Jacksonville. That doesn't help us out.
In Jacksonville, but if you're gonna have a fight, in a dome, in a football stadium, you need to have it in a dome. You can't afford for weather to fuck that shit up.
But what I'm getting at, Wallow, is that doesn't give us the opportunity to have
press passes,
Habib and Justin Gaethje in Jacksonville. That doesn't give us the opportunity.
You will never get Justin and Khabib here.
That's either going to be Vegas or MSG.
If I'm Justin, I'm saying I'm going back where it started. I'm going back to Duval, baby.
That's a fight that's going to happen most likely in Vegas.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. I'm just talking shit, but it would be badass to get a good card here because the UFC is making a shit ton of money off of the city of Jacksonville right now. because they're hosting 3 shows here, and it's going to get a hell of a ton of buys.
Yeah.
Well,
I've never really understood why Dana is so selective as to where he puts his pay-per-views. 5 years ago, I guess I would get it because it's not as big, but now this sport is gigantic. He could sell out damn near any large city if he wanted to.
well, how many people does the Coliseum here hold?
I don't even know. Probably like 40, 50,000. Everbank or the arena?
The arena. Everbank holds up to 80, I believe. But the arena is not as big compared to other.
Yeah, it might be like 30 or so.
Let's find out. I'm curious now.
Anyway, while you're looking that up, Wallow, the venue that they fought in is actually what you're looking up. But we mentioned earlier that it's going to be Justin Gaethje going up against Khabib because he beat Tony Ferguson. And when I say he beat Tony Ferguson, he beat Tony Ferguson like Tony Ferguson was beating himself. Because he looked mauled.
Like Tony Ferguson.
He looked like Tony Ferguson beat himself. Yeah. Because he was mauled at the end of that fight. And you don't see Tony look like that.
No. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Tony's punches were a little loopy, while Justin's were a little bit more straight.
Mm-hmm.
So he was staying kind of like in the pocket, and his punches, to me, I don't know about anybody else, but they looked like they were going from A to B. Tony's were a little bit more, going around,
trying to get around the guard maybe of Gaethje.
Perhaps, but to me, Tony's punches, Justin Gaethje's punches look, a little bit more straight.
Well, so he was swinging for the fences on everything.
When I think he was in the first round, he was throwing with everything he had, and in the second round, his coach Whitman told him to take some power off because he was trying to kill him. And even then, man, all the punches that he was landing, they were bombs, and shout out to Tony. He's got to be the top. For the last 6 months, I said that he was the best 155er. I got proved wrong. But he is definitely the toughest 155er out there. Most guys that get hit with those punches, they would have been out cold.
Yeah, they're Rosenstrike.
Yeah.
Still laying up against the cage.
Yeah.
Because Gaethje swings for the fences all the time. And El Kukui proved his nickname and just kept walking through it.
Man, the thing is that he kept coming forward. He was not backing down.
One bit.
There was time where he was getting clocked or whatever, and he ran to re-engage, not running to get away from the punches.
Yeah.
But he was getting out of the mess just so he could re-engage, and he was still walking him down. So
I was texting with both of you during the fights, and we all kind of saw it the same way, that the only round that Tony even on paper could have won was round 2.
Yeah.
And that's the only round that he looked like the better fighter. But other than that, and that might have been that slight adjustment, like take a little bit off those punches because you're getting tired.
Yeah.
Save some of that energy, and then he looked great for the rest of the fight.
Well, Tony has a broken orbital bone, so he's gonna be out for a little bit. Yeah. After that, he probably should take 6-8 months off.
Well, and he's what, 36, 37 years old, 37. So, that's putting him at his next fight. He might be around 38. How many more does Tony have in the tank?
I think Tony's got a good 4 or 5 years maybe left in him. The way that he trains,
he's a freak.
He's a madman, and I think he's got many good years left in him. As far as, that fight with Khabib materializing, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that Khabib mentioned that he had 2 fights left. I don't know if he's going to stick to that, but his next fight obviously is Gaethje. So that's 1. Then the next one is probably, let's say he beats Gaethje. His next one's probably Connor.
Yeah,
I mean
no, that's what-
the big money fight, go out and get paid at the same time.
That's it, unless he refuses to fight, Connor, because he's already said that he doesn't want to fight him. He's done with him. But who's next? Tony. Tony might be out, and you really are not going to give him a shot at a title unless everybody else is hurt. And he's maybe won another one or maybe two.
Well, the thing is, you're also assuming he beats Gaethje. What if Gaethje beats Habib? Then that opens up more possibilities, because then a Tony Habib fight could happen.
No, I don't think it will.
You don't think it will? It might, though.
I think that if he loses to Gaethje, he gets an immediate rematch.
That's probable and deserved. But I mean, it could open up the path for him to say, okay, I'll fight 2 more fights now, because I do want to have that big time like legacy fight. It's not just the money fight, which it might be a money fight at this point between Habib and Tony, because there's so much mystique and drama.
There's no mystique in there anymore.
Yeah, but they haven't fought.
Tony lost. The fact that
and we said it before.
Fight only worked if Tony was on his streak, because Khabib was on his streak. Yeah. So I mean, now if they both lose, it really doesn't have the same impact as it did before.
It kills it, but I think fight fans still want to see that fight.
At this point, I mean, I'll definitely watch it, but it doesn't have the same impact, at least for me.
Yeah. It's going to be a very long time, I think, before that gets stirred up, because Connor's in the mix. Dana's going to try to book him with somebody. Now Gaethje has this interim belt, so that immediately basically makes him the next up with Khabib,
which he just tossed on the ground. He doesn't want that shit.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
He cares as much about interim belts as you, Wallow.
Good for him.
Yep, good for him.
Because technically, they shouldn't have done that. Back in the day, the way that it worked was, if a champion was out for more than a year, they would get stripped, and that was it. You would basically have the number 1 and number 2 contender fight it out for
next in line,
to be the next champion.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it was the fact that that the champion got hurt and they knew for a fact that it was going to be over a year, then at that point they would strip him immediately, and then they would, instead of waiting the whole year. So I don't know. I really hate interim titles.
Yeah,
I dislike them. I mean, that's just my opinion. Obviously, I'm not the end all be all, but I just don't like them, especially when a champion is able to fight.
So what do you think about the Stipe situation,
where he doesn't want to fight because of the coronavirus?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he's concerned because of the coronavirus, I mean, you got to give the man his respect and honor what he's trying to tell you. He's like, I don't feel comfortable putting my life in danger because of the coronavirus. But at the same time, if you reach that year,
yeah, you have a year to decide, I guess, if you want to risk it or not, and then after that,
I mean.
Now, to put maybe another spin on it in a way that you possibly haven't thought of it, he's a firefighter, so he's a first responder, right, a rescuer. What if he doesn't want to fight because he feels like he may have been exposed to it already and doesn't want to risk giving it to somebody else?
Well, that's what the tests are for. Look at what happened to Jacare Souza. He got to the parking lot. He got tested. He mentioned that his family may have had it or were exposed. They immediately isolated him. They tested him. And if in fact he tested positive for it, then they sent him home. Same thing can be done with Stipe. You don't, if you
Sure.
don't want to fight, that's cool. That's fine. I understand that. I'm not gonna go against somebody's better judgment. On the situation. He's in the front lines. He's the first responder. But at the same time, things are starting to reopen.
I also don't think it's fair.
The numbers are really not what they were projecting they were going to be, because the numbers have been fudged.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys have seen it. The numbers are really not what they're saying they are. They're paying the hospitals money to say that people are dying from COVID-19, when in fact they're not.
Yeah, they're counting anyone who tests positive for COVID as a COVID death, whether or not COVID was the actual cause.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, besides all that, to me, I think it's causing a disservice to the rest of the division to hold that up. I mean, in Francis Ngannou, you've got a huge superstar in the making. I mean, this dude is just straight putting people to sleep after his loss to Stipe and his terrible fight with Derek Lewis. He's really turned it around. And I mean, this guy is he's swinging refrigerators. It's insane. That fight. I mean, I knew that fight would be a brawl, but I would have at least expected them to throw a few shots between each other. Not, what was it, a 20-second knockout?
20-second, yeah.
I mean, god damn.
Let's be honest. The only reason why he dude is sleeping is because dude connected. But those punches were ugly. There was no technique involved in those punches. They were haymakers. And granted, it landed, but somebody who is able to see those big windups and see those punches coming is gonna step aside. You think DC or Stipe is just gonna back up instead of moving laterally and get hit on the way back? No way. Those guys are gonna move. Either that or they're just gonna duck under for that double. Down he goes.
Yeah, we'll see if he's been practicing.
So yeah, he is a scary dude, but the blueprint to beat him is already out there.
Unless he's been padding his wrestling.
Well, hopefully he's been working on his wrestling and his ground game.
Because I mean, he's got the size.
Weights and heavy bag, baby. Weights and heavy bag. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I think Rogan mentioned it on one of his episodes that Francis could be an all-time great heavyweight boxer, and I agree with that.
I don't know, man. His punches are so wild.
All it takes is just him to get a good boxing coach and tighten everything up, and actually learn how to swing instead of just throw haymakers. And he could.
That is true, but if you get a heavyweight that's got a good jab, like an Anthony Joshua or even a Tyson Fury.
Look at Wilder. That's the exact style as Wilder. He goes out there and just throws wild, strong punches.
Yeah, that's true.
He's had success, but a good boxer can pick him apart.
Yeah, and he's had success until now. And I mean, I don't know. I think in Francis's case, there's no way you could have taught someone to be Francis. He was born that way, and his body is the way it is. You can't teach that. What you can teach is technique, and he can definitely learn technique to become insane. And I don't know. I think he has a lot of potential in the heavyweight division, and it would be nice to see it kind of resurge. Stipe had a lot of hype when he was coming up, and of course became the champion, and he's got his little trilogy going with DC probably eventually. But other than that division is very, very stagnant, and it's fun to see an up and comer that's scary and just puts on crazy shows come up through the heavyweight ranks to potentially shake it up.
Well, I'm going to agree with my co-host Chris. When he says DC ducks, gets the double and smash.
Yeah, I mean, but what if he doesn't duck? What if he mistimes it and eats one of those on the chin? He's fucked.
Ask Ben Askren how that feels.
Yeah. Well, Ben Askren ate a knee. But I mean, the thing with the heavyweight division right now is really not that exciting. I mean, you got Stipe as the champion. DC's on the way out. the only fight he's willing to take at this point is a title fight with Stipe. Stipe doesn't want to fight, not right now at least, because of what's going on.
So how long does he wait?
Does DC take a fight with Francis Ngannou?
I wouldn't.
Fuck no. Why? No, you take your last fight like you said you were gonna take it with the champ. You win, cool. If you don't, it's whatevs. You're retiring anyway. If he was still in the mix and talking about continuing to fight, then I'd be like, yeah, take it. Fuck it. That's what you do. You're a fighter. Fight Francis. But he's looking to hang it up after this one, and it's the trilogy.
Speaking of guys that hung it up, shocking to me at least, Henry Cejudo decided to hang it up. And that was an interesting fight. There was a questionable stoppage seconds before the round ended. And then apparently Dominic Cruz had some words to say about, I can't remember the referee's name, but he went on to say that he smelled like alcohol and cigarettes, which who knows? I mean, Dominic's pretty sour about that. So I don't know if I would necessarily take his opinion to be ultimately true. But I will agree with him that was a terrible stoppage. I mean, maybe in the moment it kind of looked like Dominic was getting beat up, but he was standing up. I mean, you can't say a guy is knocked out or even a TKO if he's standing up.
He smelled like cigarettes, as Forrest Gump would say. Yeah,
I got it. It was good.
Yeah, I wanted to see a better fight than what I saw. I mean, I love Dominic Cruz, but Henry came out of the gate and he wanted to bring it. And man, those 2 rounds, he was beating Dom up pretty good. He had a good game plan, and man, I feel bad for Dom because I will agree. Even though he got hit with, a series of punches while he was down trying to get up, it's he was a former champion. You let him go out on his shield. I mean, he was getting up, so that was the big thing.
Yeah,
but the ref stopped it
at 4 minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty shit.
But you got to remember, you don't know if the ref knows that shit. Okay, so he took 11 punches.
Whether he knew it or not, he heard he saw physically that he was going from on his face to his knees to trying to get up on the side of the cage. Whether he was taking 11 punches or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if it's that close to the end of the round, especially in like a submission or something like that,
and it was a title fight too, man.
Yeah, especially in a title fight too, you let it go to the bell. Either you knock this guy out right now, or you get this sub right now, or not. If it were me, I wouldn't have stepped in like that until he was out cold.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree. I can see that ref's point too. He was getting hit with a bunch of punches, and he wasn't returning.
Maybe if he had been drinking, he was seeing blurred double vision and he counted 22 punches.
Maybe that's what it was.
That's the only thing that I can understand
it
now.
Smell like cigarettes and Jack Daniels.
What do you think about Cejudo retiring? There's a lot of talk that
man, I am all about it. I know that we always have that running gag with Cejudo, and we joke about him getting beat by Amanda, which,
that's why he's retiring.
Yeah, he's ducking Amanda.
But I mean, he wouldn't really have to duck. He's so short.
Yeah, true. He's 5'4", bro. I'm taller than him. And that's saying a lot, bro. Because everybody's taller than me. But I'm all about it, man. When guys are smart enough to realize that, hey, I've done what I needed to do. I've fulfilled my own expectations, and I want to go on top. It makes me happy for them because they're leaving with their brain cells. We all love the fights, but there comes a time where you see guys and you're like, God, I wish you didn't take that kind of punishment. I wish that you would call it a day. And ultimately it's up to that person to, say, okay, this is the end for me, or I'm going to keep fighting. We can't tell somebody what to do, but I loved it. I was like, fuck yeah, good for you. Obviously you got some money put aside, or you got businesses, or you got something that's going to generate you income. Um, I I thought that was great. I thought that, hey, that's really good for you.
I mean, he has a history of retiring when he's ready to on his own terms. He retired at 21 from wrestling,
Yeah.
and at that time he was an Olympic gold medalist. It doesn't get much higher.
Yeah.
And here he is. He's defended 2 division championships in the UFC. Goes out on his high horse once again. It doesn't get much better than that. So, congrats to Henry, the King of Cringe, Cejudo. I saw that he posted a very cringe-worthy photo of himself laying in bed with underwear with all 3 of his UFC belts, his gold medal, and photos of all of the legends that he took those belts from.
Yeah, I saw that too. I thought that was funny. I know he's cringy and all that, but man, I started to like him. I did. I was actually enjoying his shit talk.
When
Even though-
once you
even
realize
though
that
it was
it's just a
cringy.
stick, once you
Huh?
realize that it's just a
Oh, yeah.
stick,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, he's probably not that big of a douchebag in real life.
No, I mean he looked like he was having fun with it. So it is what it is. I'm happy for him. If that's what he wants to do,
Sure.
he went out on his own terms. He called it a day as a double champion. Which,
Hey, that's triple C.
well, he was never going to lose that gold medal. So
That's true. So he's always going to be a single C no matter what he
yeah,
wants, no matter what you call him.
Yeah. So, but that opens up 2 divisions to,
Yeah.
get going again with, different champions.
Yeah.
That
Man, the title picture in the UFC is a wreck right now.
Well, TJ Dillashaw is supposed to be coming back in 7 months because his suspension should be up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still got Dominic Cruz. I don't think Dominic Cruz is going to retire.
I don't think he is, especially after having that guy just up and retire after he beat you.
Well,
like,
at this point, you got Henry Cejudo, who was the champ. Let's say that he's really retired, unless Dana's like, yo, come back. I got some money for you, bro.
I got some more of them dollars for you.
Yeah, and he says, all right, man, let me get that feria, bro.
Which people are saying that he might be trying to pull the long con on that one and pull a Conor McGregor.
And guess what? If he does,
good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Because all those guys, in my opinion, are underpaid. When you have a company that makes that much money and they only share 12% to 50% of their revenue with their fighters, come on, you can pay these guys a little bit more so they're not struggling. I think that they should have a flat fee to begin with fighters of at least 75 to 100,000, on the lower tiers. And then the guys that make you the money, you pay them a little bit more.
We were watching at my house, and my brother-in-law and his girlfriend were all here. So we were kind of having a little mini party, and we were watching the UFC. And my wife was like, how much do you think these guys make? And it was during the Pettis Cerrone fight. So not even on the main card.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, these guys, they're the main event of the undercard, basically. So they probably get between 30 and 50, but that's because they both have a little bit of a name.
No, I think they make more.
You think they make more than that?
Because they're on their contract, but their contracts is not that entry to mid level. They're established stars. So I mean, I think Cerrone's fee is like 200,000. But
was it that high? Wow, I didn't think he was.
I don't know about Pettis, but all that stuff you can look it up.
Sure, it's all public knowledge.
Yeah, that's public. So I mean, we can find out easily.
But the point that I made to her, was trying to make to her, was that a lot of these guys don't get paid a lot, and she was like, oh, well, 50,000 sounds pretty good. It's like, yeah, it sounds good, but you also got to think they've got to pay to get there. They've got to pay their coaches. They got to pay their coaches' way to get here. They got to pay for training for the past 4 months that they haven't had a job, and they were just training all day, every day.
Don't forget taxes.
Yeah, taxes eat up about what, 15% of that or whatever.
Oh, bro, what are you talking about? 15%? Are you crazy? They're in a different tax bracket.
Yeah, because it's a bigger lump sum. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're looking at possibly between 30 to 35.
God.
And that's for the guys who get paid well. Imagine the guys that get 10, 15 grand and that's it. I mean,
and those are the guys that are kind of starting at the bottom, and they're just, getting into the sport with the UFC. I mean, they may have had a bunch of fights, but coming into the UFC, unless you're a big star like Gaethje and Askren, you're not gonna get a lot of money right off the bat. You got to wake your way up. I'm sorry, you got to work your way up.
You got to wake yourself up too, Wallow. Come on, spit it out.
But I wanted to go back to the bantamweight. What was I gonna say? Oh, with Cejudo leaving,
available people.
Yeah, Aljamain Sterling has been waiting in the wings for a title shot forever.
What do you think about Peter Yan?
Peter Yan is basically right now is between Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, Marlon Moraes, who he's still up there because he beat Aldo, although that was kind of sketchy. But those 4 guys should have a like a 4-way elimination. Put the number 3 and number 4 guys in a fight, and then put the number 1 and number 2 in it, and whoever wins faces the winner of the other fight for the title. Either that or just do this. Take the number 1 and number 2 guy and let them fight it out, and then the winner of the other one can challenge.
Yeah, Dana said in the post-fight interview that it's Yan and someone. So he's basically.
Oh, really? He already penciled Yan in. Wow.
Yeah, and who knows if that's going to come to fruition? But
it would have to be Yan and Aljamain, because Moraes just had his shot not that long ago, and he lost it. He lost to Cejudo. And I mean, can you give him another title shot? He is kind of ranked number 1 still in the bantamweight, but at the same time, I do see why he wouldn't, because he's already had one, and a guy like Peter Yan, who beat up Uriah Faber pretty good, made a good case as to why he could get he should get a title shot. And Aljamain has been waiting forever. It's like, come on, man, give this guy his title shot already. Stop making him wait. So I think Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan would be the fight to make. And then let Marlon Moraes fight Corey Sandhagen. And then the winner of Corey Sandhagen and Moraes gets a shot at whoever wins between Yan and
that's
Sterling.
Your first challenger up. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Greg Hardy and Carla Esparza both thanked DC after their fights for his advice on commentary. Do you think that's going to be something they address going forward with these shows in Jacksonville?
That's the thing with not having a crowd. You could hear everything. So, I mean, those guys should know that, saying something like that when there's no crowd around, that they could possibly hear it. And it almost, I mean, it's like you're giving them advice on what to do. And if you're away from your corner and you're closer to DC, and DC saying, well, Carla should push the head and do this, and then she hears it and does it and wins.
Yeah, but at the same time, the opponent can hear what DC's saying too.
That's true. It's really not an advantage, because
the guy can, but the other guy can hear it too.
But what if he doesn't think that person's going to do it?
I mean, that's up to you to decide what to do in the ring.
I mean,
So-
Wallow, you've been on the mats before, and you've been grappling and in a bad spot, and you've heard somebody telling the guy that you're grappling, "Oh, reach out for his head like this, or cup his arm like this," so you know to start defending that a little bit more, because you're hearing those cues too. So to Zach's point, it could have helped save the fighter, But
True. I mean, like I said, it's not really an advantage, but when you're thanking them for the advice, it's like, man, I don't know.
It's weird, and
It's like you had two corners. What?
it's weird.
do you think they might back them up a little bit away from the octagon?
I don't know. I think it's fine.
Yeah,
Fuck it. I mean,
no
like
big deal.
said, if they take the advice, they take the advice. If they don't, they don't. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, those guys can't be backed up. What are they? Where are you gonna put them in a room?
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of sucks for the other person. That's all. But it is what it is.
Look out for advice.
What if DC had said something to Jorgen de Castro, or said what Jorgen should do to protect, so it can go either way. It goes both ways. So I guess it's really not a big deal when you really think about it.
Yeah. Guys, that pretty much covers what I was going to talk about tonight. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't know if many people were watching the undercard, but god damn, did Bryce Mitchell put on one hell of a BJJ show. That
he's going for twisters. You could tell that he's trying to get another one.
Yeah, that was amazing. And he was going against a black belt, so it's not like he was just mauling some guy who didn't know what he was doing. He had stiff competition, and he did that much. I mean, it was insane.
That kid's grappling is on point, man. It was so much far superior than Charles Rosa. I mean, you remember when we were in 10 Planet, the warm-ups, there's a series where you basically give your opponent the leg so they can go into like a 3/4 guard, and then you interlock your legs, basically the lockdown from the top, and then you roll over into the truck. But the way that he was using it, he wasn't doing the roll. He was just going to the side, which, when you're in the truck, you can go to the back and get the twister from that side. But he was just going to his side and immediately going to the twister. But you could tell when he was feeding the dude the leg, he wanted him to take that leg so he can interlace his and get him in the lockdown from the top. So, I mean, he set him up so good.
He was using the system, the steps.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, boom, boom. And if you know it, if you've ever studied it or done it, you can see it. And it's like, oh, here it comes. That's why guys like Joe Rogan and DC and Dominic, whenever they're all on this commentary, they're so good at it because they've seen all of these techniques. And that's why their advice is usually top notch, because they know what the hell they're talking about. Right. Just like Wallow at the McDojo show.
Yep. I'm all right. I mean, I'm all right. I know a little here and there. I'm no Joe Rogan nor DC. Those guys are like, amazing. I'm just some scrub with a podcast.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find that podcast?
Well, we're obviously on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and they can go to our IG. And normally that's where we announce our next guest, and that's at McDojo Show. Follow also at McDojo Life if you're interested in Rob's breakdowns of martial arts and exposing the fakes. Also at McDojo Shop, because the McDojo Life has a brand of clothing, and we got a bunch of stuff coming out almost on the daily now, because there's a guy running the designs and the merch store and all that stuff. So, I mean, Rob has done such an amazing job with the brand. I'm basically the first guy other than him, to represent the brand. And now, obviously, Chris and Miggy, and the guy running the shop are also representatives of the brand McDojo Life. But man, there's a bunch of stuff coming out. The documentary, hopefully, once Phase 4, starts and everything goes back to normal, Rob is going to LA for about 6 months to start filming, and it's gonna be crazy, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard, but even Rogan has mentioned McDojo Live on his podcast.
That's awesome.
Because not only is he exposing these fakes, but those fucking videos are hilarious.
Oh yeah,
Because
they are truly
these
awesome.
fucking guys think that they're doing stuff that's legit and that's good. I mean, some of them know that they're conning people, but some of these people have no fucking clue.
Insane.
And those are the ones that are hilarious to me.
Yeah, the videos of like the guy who thinks he has some sort of like shield or whatever, and people just hit him in the face, and you can tell he literally believes it, and it's not true. It's the funniest thing ever.
Oh, and also the YouTube channel at youtube.com /McDojo Live. Rob also has people doing technique videos now. Robin Black has been doing some technique videos for the last 2 weeks, and the last 4 weeks before that, we had an 8-time Muay Thai champion, Miriam Nakamoto. I believe this is her last name. 8-time Muay Thai champion. She did a series of technique videos that are amazing. I mean, this chick was the bomb. But obviously the brand is growing. He's Rob is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, it's awesome, and we're stoked that you're working with them and doing your thing and just adding your part to it, because that's another way that your podcast and your thing is going to start to grow and do better. I want to clear the benches real quick, Zach, because we didn't really get into any football or baseball news. 46 days now since opening day, and no real end in sight because it looks like a lot of things are hung up over pay. You'll remember we talked about in March that the owners agreed to a prorated salary for the players this year. Now they're backing out of that deal, saying that they don't want to pay the prorated salary, and instead they're offering a revenue share, because they were under the impression in March that they would be able to have fans in attendance. So we'll have to wait more and find out what's going on with that. Apparently they're supposed to be sending some kind of proposal to the players union. Today, Dak Prescott got offered from the Cowboys to be the highest paid player ever. They offered him 5 years, $175 million. It's $35 million per year, with $106 million guaranteed.
Please tell me he turned it down because he wants more.
He has so far not signed it.
That is
listen, I don't watch football much. I mean, I catch highlights here and there, and of course I follow the Jags. But tell me this: how many years has this dude been in the league? 3, 4?
4?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
What has he accomplished in those 4 or 5 years?
He I think his rookie year or his sophomore year, he had a pretty good season.
Okay,
and that's
pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, he didn't make the playoffs, but it was pretty good.
Statistically, if you look at his seasons compared to every other quarterback in the NFL, he is a top 10 quarterback in the league. So that doesn't equal being the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Right. So why don't they pay him as the number 10 quarterback in the league?
They offered that too, but he didn't want it.
So to me, I'd be like, you know what? Go fuck yourself and go fuck your mother. We ain't paying you shit.
I mean, money talks, bullshit walks, baby. So
it's like we're gonna franchise tag your ass.
They've already given him the franchise tag for the season, and they're still trying to extend him to a long-term contract deal because they want him long-term, but he's playing hardball. And what it's going to eventually do is lead to him not signing the franchise tag, sitting out for a portion of the season, and gambling on the fact that he thinks that Andy Dalton's going to come in and suck. But when Andy Dalton comes in and is great, and exposes Dak as just a place and plug type guy that would have had bullshit numbers if he was in Cincinnati where Joe Burrow's about to go.
Yeah, he's going to be either out of a job or on someone's bench if Andy Dalton is good this year.
Well, let me ask you this. When has Andy Dalton been great?
He's been to the playoffs.
Andy Dalton has been a good quarterback
But
he's been a good quarterback on a shitty team.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. Because you can be a shit quarterback on a great team and win a Super Bowl. Hello, Joe Flacco. Hello, Trent Dilfer.
But still, he hasn't done anything that's great.
Yeah, we're not talking great. I mean, Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton are not in the conversation for great. We're just talking.
Why don't they just pick up Cam Newton?
Well, then, I don't know. I think Cam wants a little bit more money than a lot of teams are willing to pay him, and
can't be more than what they want. What Dak wants.
Yeah, that's for sure. And at least that's a guy's a proven, guy.
MVP of the league 1 year. Yeah.
Right. Super Bowl.
He's got that over Dak, right? And he went to the Super Bowl.
The Dak.
He didn't win it, but at least he made it.
Right.
And interestingly, while we're talking about contracts, Tua has already signed his extension. 4 years with a 5-year option for $30.28 million, which average annual value is only 7.25. That's not bad.
Smart guy.
That's not bad at all.
Smart guy, stupid organization.
Yeah.
That guy's hurt. He's got a bum hip. He might as well be like 80 years old at this point.
Fully guaranteed 30 mil.
Smart. You know what? He probably will play 2-3 years and be done.
But he'll be sitting on 30 mil.
Good for him. And I hope that he does, something good with it. I hope that, he invested well and they put some money away for a rainy day. And
I'm sure there's some huge ass bonfire in Hawaii right now with a pig cooking.
Listen, that money that he's getting from the Dolphins is basically the prorated amount that he was supposed to get at Alabama.
Yeah, I believe that.
Pretty much. Yep.
So good for him for getting paid.
Going back to our NCAA corruption conversation from earlier. Anyway, guys, Wallow, thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate you, and we direct our people to your show every week. So it's good to have you on here to tell us about McDojo Life and to give them the places where they can go to find you.
Again, Instagram at McDojo Show. Also hit up McDojo Life and McDojo Shop if you were interested in the gear. On YouTube at youtube.com/McDojo Life. On Facebook, the Facebook page is growing again. It had over 100,000 at one point, but Facebook for some reason closed it down, and Rob is trying to fight to get it back. But we get a bunch of new people in there every day, but it's still not 100,000 people. But anyway, that's
like it. Go give them a like because
Go check out the videos or just go to the YouTube and check it out. We haven't announced who our next guest this week is going to be because he is actually in town and we don't know what his schedule looks like. But we are super stoked if we make this happen because he's probably going to be coming in studio to chat with us. And
one that's in town, and a UFC was just in town.
Well, the UFC
will be in town Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah,
short list.
Yeah, so it's somebody that's involved in that. So, but we can't say just yet because we haven't confirmed anything because he doesn't know what his schedule looks like. So I'm waiting on a response, and then at that point, I'll let everybody know.
It's Joe Rogan's towel guy.
Actually, it's Joe Rogan's water boy.
Joe Rogan's water boy. You heard it here first. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week, guys. Hopefully Justin will be back. He's dealing with some other stuff tonight and was too busy for us, so he had to go be an adult. Anyway, We'll be back next Monday night. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. New episodes are recorded every week.